Hello and welcome to Dig It. I'm Peter Brown and hosting the show with me today is Chris Day. Hi Chris.
Hi Peter.
August in the garden.
It's quite scary, Peter, how the year's moving so swiftly.
Definitely, but equally, it's, I'm going to say, the holiday season. I always think of August as the month of holidays.
Indeed.
It's that time where we all hopefully get to have a break from work and a couple of weeks off.
Yeah, sounds very attractive. And of course, the garden, doesn't sleep, and that has to keep going, doesn't it? And of course, obviously, the month of July, as we know, was slightly soggy, shall we say?
Yeah, there was a few downpours. I got absolutely caught out a couple of nights ago. Went down the allotment to cut some courgettes. Mm-hmm. And it was starting to spit when I left at home. And by the time I got there, the heavens had opened and I'd left my jacket behind and I was absolutely drenched by the time I got home. But I had a lovely couple of courgettes, I must say. It's always nice when you get to go and cut some vegetables that you've grown, and they always taste so much better, don't they?
They do indeed. And the garden's obviously enjoying that extra rain now, and I think that's everything's sort of showing. We've got some nice greenery across the fields, haven't we? Whereas this time last year, of course, we were experiencing 40-odd degrees, which, of course, some parts of Europe have been doing in recent weeks. So,
definitely. Yes. Well, I know earlier on in the year we were running around with lots of watering cans trying to keep everything watered, but it does seem like the ground's moistened up a bit now, and certainly makes weeding a bit easier.
And it did rain copiously on St Swithin's Day back in July, so if that's any... They do suggest it rains for 40 days and 40 nights if it rains on that day. I don't. Anecdotally, it's always a bit of fun, but well, so far it has proved that. So
excellent, good stuff. So, what's on? What shows have we got to go and look at? What can we go and entertain ourselves doing? I mean, in my village a couple of weeks ago, it was the NGS Gardens Open scheme, and
excellent.
There's lots of people milling around, having a look around gardens. It was really interesting.
Fantastic.
A few new people opened their gardens up this year and got to have a look around them, and some of them were clearly keen to show off their sort of grass and new buildings and things like that, and others were more keen to show off their new borders and plants. And
fantastic.
It's always interesting seeing.
And as I always say, Peter, if you're moving into a new area, it's the thing to do in your first year to get a feel of what grows well in that area. It makes your gardening then a lot easier.
Definitely, and I mean, we live in a road with lots of 1930s sort of semi-detached houses, and all the gardens are a similar sort of size. So I think one of the best things is when you get to go and see what's behind the garden, the side gate, because they're so different.
That's the thing, isn't it? And that makes it so much more interesting. And of course, it gives you even more ideas then, isn't it?
That's it. And you see something that you think, actually, I can do that.
Yeah, and this month of August, plenty of ideas from shows, Peter. So,
where should we be going then?
So, right round the country, actually. So, the 1st to the 6th of August, it's RHS Hyde Hall Flower Show. That's over in Chelmsford.
Okay.
Obviously good. And I noticed on the listings, Martin Fish, who was a guest on our podcast last year.
Yep.
He's going to be there giving talks at the show, so a bit of a shout out for Martin.
Brilliant.
And then we've got, this is rather interesting, from the 4th to the 13th of August, visit the Shropshire Petal Fields over in Newport in Shropshire, and it's basically celebrating plants which produce lots of flowers. I mean flowers as in petals, things like delphiniums, sunflowers, cornflowers, and wildflowers in bloom. I think it's a really good way of getting people to, explore these wonderful plants and to showcase how good they are en masse.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds interesting. That sounds a bit similar to like the Derbyshire well dressings that I think are going on at the moment, aren't they? They're, from memory, my aunt and uncle lived in a village that used to do their well dressing, and that was where the people from the village would get together and get some petals and seeds and flowers and basically make a real big show of the local well, which really interesting. Yeah. So if you're up that way, maybe have a look for some well dressings.
Yeah, right, looks like right through the month of August and into September as well. So
and I think that's all through the Peak District. So
it is. Yeah,
lots of people obviously go up the Peak District for their walking holidays in the summer, and there's some lovely areas to go and see.
A lovely part of the world, isn't it? Yeah,
definitely.
So that's good. So and then we move still in Shropshire to the Shrewsbury Flower Show. That's on the 11th and 12th. I went there many years, Peter. It's a really good show. It's in the Dingle, which is the park, main park department. And of course, it's well known. That was Percy Thrower, the late and great Percy Thrower. As head gardener, he looked after that area for a long old time. So a lot of association with the late and great Percy Thrower. So that's over 2 days, and they have lots of things going on. And yeah, it's a music festival as well. So it's everything for everybody, gardening wise. 12th and 13th is the Great Comp Flower Show. So this is over at Sevenoaks. So it's a celebration of specialist nurseries and arts and crafts. Okay. And then the following weekend, it's the 17th to the 20th of August, and that's the Southport Flower Show at Victoria Park in the seaside resort of Southport. One I used to go as a young child many times, and very fond memories, actually.
Brilliant. Okay.
And of course, if you know Southport, you know that you never really see the sea there. It's always many miles out, so it's good, unlike Blackpool just down the road. Okay. And then finally, 18th and 20th of August, another RHS Flower Show. This is at Rosemore, obviously down in Devon. So if you're in that part of the world on your holidays, get to have a look around there.
Have a look around now. Yeah. So it's flower show. That's what we're doing in August.
And lots, and flowers.
Brilliant, good stuff. Great stuff. And so I guess that brings us on to what's in the news. What's happened the last few weeks then, Chris?
Yeah, well, there's obviously been lots going on in view of the fact we are in the show season, but I think the first thing we better mention, of course, is obviously Carol Klein, well-known gardener. She became the iconic hero of obviously the Hampton Court Flower Show, which obviously they kept that a little bit quiet, a bit secret, so we weren't able to mention it beforehand. But I think she did a wonderful garden. I saw it on Gardeners World. Amazing job creating these sort of different areas of the garden from her own garden at Glebe Cottage, and then she's down in the West Country. Right. And she's been a little bit controversial because she has made a point that obviously the current presenter, of course, Monty Don, has been there for many years, and in fact the whole history of Gardeners World has been very male dominated, and I think she was making an interesting point that maybe it's time for a female to perhaps take
equal opportunities is all the rage these days, isn't it? And I think it's so it should be. Why not?
Exactly. Yes. So she made some really good points, and and I'm sure. I do enjoy watching Carol presenting the sort of segments of the show, but maybe times are changing, aren't they?
And from a trade point of view, we recently had Solex, which is basically the trade show for garden furniture and barbecues and
that sounds fun.
Outdoor sort of leisure. And it was a nice show, one hall at the NEC, so not enormous this year. And I was so pleased we're moving away from grey.
Oh, okay.
The sort of swathes of grey furniture of last year are moving now into some more taupe and lighter colours. So nicer, brighter colours, I think, are coming into the scene this year. And there's still a lot of weave, and aluminium furniture is obviously still very popular, but there's also a bit of a resurgence in really old-fashioned cast iron furniture, and also a lot of recycled plastic furniture.
That's good to hear. Yes,
is great. I mean, it sort of hit the marketplace a couple of years ago. It was very expensive. Now we're getting to a point where I think the plastic, sort of recycled plastics, have obviously come down in price. I guess they've maybe worked out how to manufacture them more efficiently, and I just like them because they're colourful. It is sort of nice to have some good colourful furniture. So that was the news I picked up from at Solex.
That sounds really good, Peter, and we'll obviously see the results of that in the next few years.
Next year, hopefully the garden centres around you will be showing some nice colourful.
Sounds fantastic. Yeah, that's good. And we've got some news from the King's very first birthday honours list, Peter. So a couple of well-known names, actually. Landscape designer Tom Stuart-Smith, he received an OBE. Obviously well-known, Tom, for his amazing gardens at Chelsea many years ago. I remember, I think he designed, one of the Telegraph gardens, which was obviously amazing. And the other award goes to Richard Barley, who's been awarded an MBE, and he's the director of gardens at Kew Gardens. So two high-profile awards there, which is good. And of course, this is the thing, isn't it? With the awards, we tend not to think it affects horticulture, but it very much does, which is obviously good. And of course, knowing the King's interest in all things plants and gardening and agriculture, it's all
hopefully we'll get some more publicity and our sector will sort of raise its public
Indeed.
profile.
That would be good, wouldn't it?
Definitely.
Yes, yeah. And the other bit of news on the back of, obviously we're into that sort of holiday season, it's all about plant warnings, isn't it? And hemlock has got a warning now that obviously being very related and looking like cow parsley, but hemlock is pretty nasty. Obviously it's
horrible stuff, isn't it?
It is,
I seem to remember it being in Shakespeare's play.
It did. It was used as a poison, wasn't it? So it's just a matter of identifying it. So it's got those wonderful umbels of white flower. So it's one you do often probably see and not perhaps register. So it might be worth just having a look when you're out and about to familiarise yourself with it, so you know to avoid it, basically.
Well, the other one that I came across was giant hemlock, and I think it's one of the best things about going away on holiday was the fact that when you go somewhere new and you spot something, and I can remember another holiday where down in Wales, went to sort of drive past this water treatment place, and I think they had Japanese knotweed there because they were injecting it with. It looked like someone had like a syringe and was injecting these stems, and I was like, I guess that's how they get rid of that. That's another really invasive sort of nasty.
Most definitely,
plant. But the giant hemlock was. That's got a horrible sap, hasn't it? The hemlock makes you super sensitive to sunlight.
That's it. So if you brush past it and then you expose that skin to the sunshine, you come out with a very allergic reaction, and that's why with all hemlocks and hogweeds, because they're all in the same family, they have the same reaction. So you've got to be really careful.
So I guess it takes me back to my youth where. I can remember as a young boy, we always used to have great fun in the summer cutting down, smashing up cow parsley.
Right.
Because you get a stick and you just smash it up and you scythe it down sort of type thing. And
it's a strong stem, isn't it? Perfect.
It was good. It used to snap and crackle. Yeah, it was good fun. But equally, if you do that with hemlock, you
don't want to be doing that.
You don't want to be doing that. So
indeed.
Not a good thing to do.
And another story, Peter, which I had to do a double take actually. When you look at a headline, unusual pink grasshoppers in a UK garden.
This is brilliant, isn't it? I mean, they're saying that it's a once in a lifetime experience, and they are so rare.
Yes.
That I mean, when you look closely at grasshoppers, they are really beautiful. It's a bit like dragonflies. You get to see a dragonfly close up, until you've really seen it and studied it, you don't realise. But the pink grasshoppers are, I guess they're a bit chameleon-like, aren't they? Isn't that what causes it? And
that's right.
Essentially, they must have been living somewhere pink.
Very pink. Yes. I mean, they reckon that only 1% of pink grasshoppers are found in a people's lifetime, so rare beyond words. And this obviously the report sort of suggests it was Anglesey, obviously in North Wales, where this was found. So and it was photographed too. So if you're out and about looking for unusual grasshoppers, keep an eye out for the pink one. I think
pink ones, and let us know if you see one.
Indeed.
They're obviously very rare.
Yeah, but there was one interesting fact, which again you get blown away with these sort of news stories. There are 11,000 species of grasshopper around the world. 11,000.
11,000. Wow.
And there happens to be a pink one. Well, there you go.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Every day's a school day in nature, isn't it?
Definitely. And Pete hits the headlines. Surprise again. What's it up to this time?
Yeah, so this is sort of the news we sort of knew, Peter, isn't it? That basically a new report from the HTA shows that reduced peat consumption is going to remain a problem, but we are using less. We're using more peat-free products, but actually the use of peat is falling, which is great news. And
that's good. Brilliant.
And I mean, basically the peat-free prediction that plants grown professionally has doubled since 2021. So we are moving in the right direction. But I suppose we only have to look at the products we're selling at the garden centre here. I think we're probably 98% peat-free, with the obviously the end date of next year at some point being the end of peat-based compost completely.
That's it.
And we're talking about awards. The renowned rosarian Michael Marriott, obviously well known and associated with obviously David Austin roses, he picked up a top award. He was awarded the Dean Mole Medal by Colin Squire, who was chairman of the Rose Society. So a very prestigious award. And I mean, Michael's obviously associated a lot with David Austin roses, but a really good award and obviously well deserved.
Flax the way to do it. What a great title.
Yes.
Now, did you know, Chris, linen comes from flax?
I didn't know that, Peter.
I had no idea.
No.
It's amazing what we don't realise. I mean, now you can get socks that are made from bamboo.
Yes.
You get, twine, garden twine made from hemp.
Yeah, jute. Yes.
Jute, ropes. Old-fashioned ropes, I think, used to be made from hemp as well. So people think, well, I guess a lot of plastic products like polyester and what have you make clothes, but equally cotton is the
most natural sort of product going, isn't it? Yeah.
It is, but isn't it the seed head? It's the sort of fluffy bit that comes off the top of the seed, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah,
that's what cotton's made from.
That's right, and it's sometimes put into fields and bleached or chemically changed to give it to its colour. And then obviously that's then produced into yarn, which is then of course put on the mill. Yeah, but this is interesting. This flax they're experimenting with growing it up in Scotland, and it's apparently some Dutch varieties are being used. And I didn't realise that it's a different type of flax to grow linen than perhaps the products we tend to see in the supermarket.
You get it as seed, don't you? And then linseed oil, which was I mean that. I'm going to say 30, 40 years ago used to be what we treated wood. Wasn't that what we protect our wood with? Garden furniture.
That's it, yeah.
So it's obviously a good plant to get back into production, but I guess that's it. Sort of things change in farming and they diversify and maybe the Scots can't grow any peat anymore, they can grow some flax instead.
Indeed, use their space more wisely, and of course for the farmers, of course, it'll be a really good crop to have, won't it? I suppose value wise, if they have
definitely,
and with global change to our climate, then this is probably what we need to be sort of looking at, which is good. And the other story, Peter, which it got quite a lot of headlines actually on the TV, was the keen gardener and actor Jim Carter. Obviously, if you're a follower of Downton Abbey, you will know Jim. He used to play the butler Charles Carlson, but he's a very keen and avid gardener. And basically, he was asked to spearhead a discussion, basically with the government to put horticulture back on the map again. And he and Alan Titchmarsh spoke to the members of the Trade Association, the RHS, and of course the speakers of the Environmental Horticultural Group. So this is a new group to promote horticulture and get everything back into the forefront of developing, a good understanding of how important horticulture is to the UK. And basically the headline is less screen time, more green time. So get us away from our laptops and phones and get us gardening more. So it's good.
Well, I mean, if it's not raining, definitely get out there and get gardening.
Most definitely, especially this summer. But so I think it's good. It's this connection with the parliamentary side of government and obviously the Horticultural Trades Association. So we're having what they call a dialogue, isn't it? Which I think is important these days. So good, that's good news. A good story.
And I guess as we're a plant show, Chris, we should really be talking more about the plants.
Of course, most definitely.
So the show. Plants that have won some accolades and awards recently. It's the HTA show. That's
right. Over in Stoneleigh near Coventry a few weeks ago. And some interesting winners actually. The overall best in show went to a plant called Curcuma Skyline, which for me was I have to say I didn't particularly like it. To be very honest, it was fine. It looked nice, but I think it's just a plant which has quite a quite a short flowering season compared to some of the other plants, which obviously were well presented, and it can be a little bit funny in its conditions it needs as well. So user friendliness, I don't know, but it did look amazing, I have to say. And perhaps it's a plant that just needs to become more involved with with customers and gardeners maybe. But yeah,
fair enough. Allensmore, they're in the spotlight again now. They're a supplier we use, aren't they?
Fantastic supplier,
very
yes,
good.
yeah.
They've done an agapanthus, haven't they?
Yes. Now this is Blackjack. Now this is the one which was giving all the wonderful reviews at Chelsea a few months ago, and that one actually
was that the Chelsea winner?
He was, yeah.
They really liked it there, but yeah, I've seen a photo of it now, and it definitely, it's pretty stunning.
It is, yeah. And the thing is with agapanthus, despite the fact a lot of people did lose them last winter because of the horrendously cold weather, they are such a good doer normally, and the fact is you can grow them in pots and in the nice sunny border as well. So I think it's good. It's got a good prospect to it as well.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
And now this, I'm really pleased. Bull Colgrave is sort of in the news as well with their dahlias, because I can remember a couple of years ago you kindly got some tickets to one of their show events, and I've never seen so many beautiful dahlias in flower in one place.
They were good, weren't
and
they?
This one, Maxi Starburst Pink, I mean the centre of it just brought back memories of these perfect
incredible
flowers. They're incredible, and when it's nice when you have one or two in a border, but when you see a whole greenhouse full of dahlias and bench after bench of sort of different colours, it's just incredible.
Growth to perfection, but most of all teeming with wildlife. The bees and the hoverflies were surrounding the plants. So so that's one definitely to look for. I mean, I think dahlias are definitely on trend, as they say, aren't they, Peter? I mean, we're looking at our seasonal tunnel at the moment. We've got plenty of big and small growing varieties, foliage, purple or dark leaf foliage. I mean, they're such a wide-ranging plants and so easy to grow as well, and flower right through till October too. So so that's Dahlia Darlena Max Starburst Pink. Look out for it for next year. And
then a nice foliage plant. That's nice to see a sort of foliage plant, isn't it? So Fatsias, I mean, I can remember when I went to college, I thought they were house plants.
And you're absolutely correct, Peter. They were house plants.
Now they've been have they been toughened up a bit, or is it just our climate's got warmer and
exactly,
or we've become more adventurous and we've decided to see if they'll grow outside? And surprise, they do.
Yeah, I mean, when I was back in the years when I was at Rochford's houseplants, we used to grow it and sell it and market it as a cool, living, low light houseplant. So big leaves generally means they'll take shade, and that's where you tend to put them in the garden, a nice shady location. If you've got a shady courtyard and you want a big, bold architectural plant, then Fatsias are the ones. And this variety is called Camouflage, which is like a two-tone green, pale green, light green, a real mishmash, but looks lovely.
Okay. And I guess if it's a camouflage or it's a variegated one, that's going to like even less light than the standard ones. Indeed.
I think you're absolutely right there. And interestingly, Peter, we got these in earlier on this spring. They came in and they flew out of the garden centre. So we had a small amount of young little liner plants and they went down a storm. So, it's a plant which I'm sure we'll see more of. And because it's tough and resilient and it's great for new gardeners, a good plant, a good plant choice. Yeah.
Good stuff. And Garden.NEWS has got some interesting news, hasn't it, Chris?
Yeah, so obviously a couple of weeks ago we were obviously chatting to Plant Heritage and their wonderful work, their important year, their 45th anniversary. So they were at Hampton Court, so it's nice to report back at one of the growers there picked up a top award for alpine plants. So this gentleman, a chap by the name of Adrian Young, he maintains over 900 different types of saxifraga, which of course are their wonderful alpine plants.
So that's a national collection, is it?
Yes, it's based at Waterperry in Oxfordshire.
Down the road from us.
Yeah,
Not
indeed.
That far away at all.
And he picked up the award, and the award was named after the charity's co-founder and botanist Christopher Brickell. He was the first Director General of the RHS, so quite an important part. And in fact, I was thinking about Christopher Brickell. We've got a book of his, which is our Bible in the plant office down in the bottom there, where we use for pruning and training advice. He's a very good author of gardening knowledge and wisdom. So a good one. So yeah, he picked up that award, and he's been growing and studying saxifrages apparently for 45 years. And he says in the quote, and it's been a real pleasure. Well, it's been, I think, a fantastic achievement, isn't it, to put on such a fantastic display at Hampton Court too. So,
to amass such a collection.
Yes,
I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah,
good work.
So at the show, he brought obviously a representation of those 900. He didn't bring all the 900, just a few there. But yeah, obviously grown wonderfully in pans, which of course is the way you display your alpine rockery plants, isn't it? So you can see them nice, and usually against a dark or black background to show off the wonderful flowers. So so well done to Adrian, and obviously just a reference back, if you missed our podcast on plant heritage, you can obviously listen back.
Salisbury Council have also hit the headlines, haven't they? They're banning Are they banning hanging baskets, or they're just going to phase them out? Are they?
Yeah, they've suggested this news story is quite unbelievable. I mean, I think basically there's a bit of a confrontation politically, shall we say, about the cost and the amount of water hanging baskets need. But obviously, and they're sort of suggesting, this is Salisbury City Council. They voted to switch to a more sustainable alternative. And of course, that's gone down rather badly with the Conservative councillors.
I must say, Chris, I mean, hanging baskets, Northampton they've got a few displays out, and it always amazes me how the petunias and the plants in them can look so good. And we spoke to Bull Colgrave about this a while ago, didn't we? And essentially, Bull Colgrave have bred plants specifically for the purpose of coping with drought and low mistreatment and being put into containers that are just really not that great for them to grow in, but they still do, and they still look amazing.
They do, and I think you're right, Peter. I think also you can get compost now. We know with wetting agents, things like swell gel, which will hold the moisture. Obviously, compost can be tweaked to hold better moisture retention. We're using liners now. We're not using less sustainable sphagnum moss, so we're doing the right thing there. And as you say, we're using varieties which are what they call self-cleaning, so they don't produce seeds, and therefore they don't need regular deadheading. Varieties which are more tolerant of climate change.
Yep.
I think we're doing all the right things, and then you get a story like this, and it just slightly... It doesn't sit comfortably, does it, really, to beautify and keep our, towns and villages and cities looking green and...
well, they're so colourful as well. I think that's the thing.
They're cheery,
You've got all this black street furniture around that just does nothing for the visual appeal of the place. And then you put some hanging baskets or some baskets over the top of it, and plants grow down it. The bees and the flies and all sorts of bits of wildlife proliferate, take hold and do well because of it. And interesting.
Politics. Let's keep it out of hanging baskets, shall we?
So I guess it's that time in the show where we find out what's been selling. And being summer and August, it's roses this month, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And of course, it's the time of year when people are planting, and obviously this is sales right back through our root wrap rose season as well, Peter. So it's potted and root wrapped. So it's an interesting mix. So at number 5, a celebrity rose, Mary Berry.
Mary Berry's going. Wow. Okay. Fair enough.
Number 4, Precious Ruby, which is part of the Precious range, which again is a root wrap rose, which is incredibly popular. Lovely, lovely flowers, very folivorous. Number 3, Cutie Pie.
Excellent, I like the name.
And number 2 is With Love.
Okay, that's a nice... again, a nice name. Are people just buying these on names, or are they buying them on colours and smells?
With Love is your typical sort of Valentine's red rose, so maybe in this instance it is. And the number 1 spot, and perhaps no surprise, Rose Queen Elizabeth II.
Oh, that's nice. Good stuff.
So
cool.
A real eclectic mix of some really good varieties there. So
brilliant, excellent. Thanks for that, Chris.
Pleasure.
Well, if we've done the top 5, that means it's that time of the show where you're going to
dear.
give me some work to do, isn't it, Chris?
And some nice jobs this month.
Okay, what should we be doing in the allotment and in the garden at the moment?
Right, the most important thing, the most pressing thing to do is pop down to your local garden centre and get yourself some seed potatoes. Yes, it's August.
Good point. Christmas potatoes,
Indeed,
isn't it?
It is, yeah.
And
so
I think we've got about 5 varieties in stock now, haven't we?
Yeah, we have, yeah. Really good varieties, a mixture of first, second, and I noticed one main crop in the mixture this year, which is interesting, but obviously grown for flavour. Of the top ones, one which springs to mind, which we should grow, is Charlotte. I think that's the one.
Yep.
I'm going to be growing this season. So get those. So just get yourself a nice container, a bit of compost. No need to chit them. Just get them in the soil as quick as you can. Just cover the tuber slightly. As soon as you start to see some green leaves, just continue to top up as the tuber grows in that pot. The pot needs to be probably about 18 inches in height and depth, minimum, I would say, 45 centimetres, and just use some compost and water away, and obviously a little bit of tomato feed as the plants go. But the most important thing over the next month of August is to get as much top growth on the plants as you can, because that will obviously mean that you get some nice tubers for the end of the year. And you're probably looking about 12 weeks from planting to cropping. So that's, yeah. And if you haven't already done it, obviously plant your leeks out. Still a bit of time for those, and obviously your brassicas too for your winter and your spring crops. So spring cabbage and things need to be going in August, September time. And in the greenhouse, or if you're growing your tomatoes, well, look out for obviously that problem called blossom end rot. So
the black sort of bits that start around the bottom of the flower.
That's it, yeah. And it's a bit contentious actually, because some people say it's due to lack of calcium. Some people say it's irregular watering. Dr. David Hussain, in his wonderful expert book, says it's a physiological disorder, which means it's a mixture of everything. So it can be a combination of that. But obviously, if you're growing your tomatoes now and you're giving them lots of feed, feeds contain calcium, so that should take care of that. But a bit of seaweed or a bit of comfrey feed with your tomatoes might help to alleviate the problem as well, which is good as well. And of course, feeding is crucial at this time of year on the allotment, so get some feed in. I had my first decent crop of climbing French beans the other night. Absolutely, I've never grown such a tasty crop. I have to say, they were sown back in April, so they've been around a little while, but they've put on a lot of growth, and been very productive as well. The rudder beans, which is a Norma, are doing quite well, but they're not. I'm not getting quite the crop just yet. So
mine are about 2 foot tall. No flowers on them yet.
Oh, I've got some flowers.
Yeah, I think it's going to be another poor year for my beans.
Yeah. Oh dear. Okie dokie. And then of course, let's just think about herbs and salads as well. Fast growing crops. So I noticed at the garden centre we've still got a few herbs in stock now. So if you're doing a new herb bed, it's a good project for the children, maybe for the school holidays now. And so I know you might want to sow some herbs, things like your basil, your marjoram, your chives, coriander. Very fast growing, very fast maturing, so they would be worth doing. You grow those on the windowsill, and if you've got chives, good time to divide those as well. They flowered amazingly well on the garden centre here this year. They looked amazing, and of course great for the bees. So if you've got some nice big clumps in the next few weeks, it'd be a good time just to split and divide those. And you get those as well.
Have even more. Indeed.
And propagation, we were talking about herbs. Rosemary is a good time to get some rosemary herbs, herb rosemary propagated. You can take short, semi-ripe cuttings at this time of the year. You can root them very easily around a pot of gritty compost.
So they don't need to go in a propagator?
Not necessarily.
Literally just pop them in a pot and off they go?
Just around the edge of a pot, you get yourself a sort of 11 centimetres, so a 6-inch pot. Nice gritty compost, and run probably 8 or 9 cuttings around the edge. They'll root within about 6-8 weeks.
Ah, okay.
And as people have lost so much rosemary this winter, it's a good opportunity to bulk up your stock too.
So I had a good surprise in my pot of rosemary this year, Chris.
Okay.
I've got marjoram growing in it now.
Oh, good.
So I don't know where the marjoram is seeded from. I'm going to say one of my neighbours. But there's I was looking at the pot the other day and I was like, I think that's marjoram. And I pulled a few leaves off and smelt it. And it's like, definitely marjoram.
Nice herb to have,
that's
isn't it?
good. So I've got a bonus double herb pot this year.
That's good. On the fruit side of things, obviously pruning. We were doing a bit of pruning with the staff the other day. Actually, Peter, we were doing a bit of training on the pruning of sort of your train stocks, so your cordons and your espaliers.
Okay.
So it's a matter of giving them a trim back. So any pruning you do at this time of the year on fruit trees is encouraging the plants to produce more flower for next year.
Right.
Any pruning you do during the winter tends to encourage vegetative growth, so leaves and stems.
Okay.
So if your plants have not been performing particularly well this year, then it's a good time to get the secateurs in and do some trimming back to usually 3 or 4 buds from the stems there. So do that, and obviously, give the plants a good feed if you're doing that as well. And the other job I'm doing in my own garden now is transplanting my runners, which I've been propagating over the month of July. They're now ready to go into their final planting.
Right,
position.
your strawberry runners.
Strawberry runners,
Yes, because strawberries have been nice this year, I must say. They've done well. I think they like the warm weather, don't they?
They do indeed. So, and it's a good opportunity as well to bring in some new stock as well. I noticed at the garden centre we got in some new varieties are back in available. Remember, strawberries last for about probably 7 or 8 years, and then they run out of steam.
Yep.
They can get virus disease and all sorts of things. So it might be worth investing in some new plants to reinvigorate your strawberry beds.
Okay, and what's your favourite? Is it the Cambridge favourite, or is it the El Santa?
Honey Eye and Aramel is another one I tend to grow.
Okay.
I'm not particularly partial to any varieties. I think it's just what's around. To be honest with you, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah. It gives a nice mixture there. El Santa is probably one of the better varieties. That's the variety which, of course, they grow for Wimbledon. So back in July, when you saw all those amazing pictures of...
Yeah, because strawberries, if you do some sort of research, you can get the early cropping ones, the mid-season ones, and the late-season ones.
That's it.
It's quite interesting. So
yeah.
you can keep... If you've got a good range, you can get a whole summer full of strawberries, which is just delightful.
Indeed. And also, it's been obviously a good year for the English strawberry growers, certainly. I think the weather we had back in June was wonderful. Maybe, obviously, July's been a bit of a shock to system, but the strawberry season is quite short normally, isn't it, for home gardens? So, the more you can grow, the better. Other things you might want to do, I think, in the garden, certainly if you're growing dahlias, earwigs are a bit of an issue, aren't they? They can cause all sorts of problems, nibbling on the flowers and the leaves. So the traditional way is to put some nice stout bamboo canes in with your dahlias, get some terracotta pots upturned with a bit of straw or a bit of shredded newspaper, put those in over the top, and of course then the earwigs will use that to hibernate through the course of the whole summer day, and then you can dispose of them, shall we say. You can banish them at night, and it's a good way of trapping them as well. So,
excellent.
So earwig trappers as well to that. And I suppose if you're doing any pruning now, we're into obviously better weather. If you've got your box and your topiary, it's a good time to give that a bit of a tidy up as well. Some nice sharp snippers or secateurs, or maybe invest in a new electric or rechargeable pruning device to prune your topiaries.
Hedge cutters.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I did mine the other day. It's always a mammoth job, but it's got to be done. Little tip with box: if you can try and choose 2 or 3 days with no rain.
Yeah.
So then that keeps the blight at bay, and obviously, that would be useful. And obviously, get some nice feed around anything you prune back at this time, Peter. It's always worth giving a little bit of a feed just to balance what you've done.
Yeah, because I can remember I trimmed my laurel hedge a couple of years ago, and it came back looking very unhappy. So lots of shriveled leaves and just not right. And you suggested seaweed, spray it with some seaweed extract, and. It's growing wonderfully again this year, so I think that might have helped. Yeah,
indeed. And also, if you've got roses now, and of course we talked about the top 5, but of course roses tend to flower. A lot of the new modern varieties in flushes, so after the first flush you normally give the plant a bit of a trim back, do a bit of deadheading, by about half. So if you've got bush roses, but David Austin or Peterbilt's, whoever you're buying your roses from, cut the plants back by half, give them a bit of top rose or something similar. That will encourage the plants then to produce a new flush. And if you're lucky, you'll get a nice display now into September, which is, of course, what you want as well. So a bit of water, a bit of feed after you've cut them back is good. And, of course, keep the spraying up if you've got issues with mildew or black spot as well.
Good point. Thanks, Chris.
And container-wise, containers are still looking really good. They always say in August that some things can start to slow down. My advice is always change your feed. So go over to a high nitrogen feed, something like Phosphorgen, which will
Right.
encourage lots of leafy growth. If your plants are running out of steam, you might want to just change the feed over for a couple of weeks to get some nice leafy stem growth on, which will hopefully carry more flower. And then once you've got the flowers back in, then go back to your tomato high potash feed. So
Yeah.
a bit of ringing the changes there doesn't do any harm. Plants are like us, Peter. They're like a change of diet.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess the other thing with feeding is, as Chris Collins mentioned the other week, he was doing regular feeding but very small amounts.
I think.
Some people do one feed once a week and that's it, and then water the rest of the week. I think it's interesting how different people have different viewpoints on it.
I suppose it's what suits you. I think when we were talking to Jekka, our herb guest last year, she had was it a feeding Friday or a feeding Thursday?
No, feeding Friday.
Feeding
wasn't
Friday,
it?
yeah. So she had a specific
every
day.
Friday. She always fed her plants.
Yeah. So do what works for you. I think that's the end of the day. But if you've got plants which are putting lots of growth on, things like tomatoes, I mean, the general feeling is half strength every time you water. Is quite a good regime. Something like Tom Rice and things. So use it half strength, but use it every time. So you'll probably just use as much feed, but obviously in a more controlled way. For your
Well, certainly my hanging baskets are doing well. They're on Westland tomato food, I think, this year. They're loving it.
Yeah,
they're doing really well.
This year I'm using Doff, Doff tomato, and I'm using the container one for my pots as well. And the results have been really good. They've certainly got the right feeds. And also a bit of extra comfrey feed from me comfrey water butts.
Mine's doing really well. It's about 3 foot, 2 foot tall now.
Right, so it's going to be ready for the chop soon, isn't it? Yeah.
Excellent. So I must try that because I've not tried that yet. And obviously you gave me the plants last year, so they're doing well.
That's good. Okay. And I mean, obviously August is still not too late to get some more seeds sown for next spring. So things like honesty and wallflowers, try and get those sown. I mean, you need to move quite quickly because you need some nice strong plants for planting out later in the autumn. Okay. And the other thing I suppose to mention, of course, July was well known for the high winds we had. Certainly, it was a problem month. So just make sure everything's staked and tied. Make sure you've got some good garden canes and some tie available just to support things, because they're putting growth on now, aren't they? And they get top heavy. They just need a little bit of a helping hand to keep them upright and not damaged, because obviously that's the last thing you want for all your work is to be having to replace spoiled plants.
Definitely. And I saw on the last couple of weeks quite a few trees have got boughs down, and it's obviously there's been quite a few really high winds that have not done the trees very good.
Yeah, and unseasonal high winds for this time of year. And this thing is, we expect these sort of winds in sort of October when the plants are sort of starting to shed their leaves. But your plants are big sales, aren't they, in the garden? And that's the issue. So just take care. I know we had a couple of weeks ago some really bad winds, and it affected some of our Japanese maples. So be wary. Anything which is brittle stemmed it is well supported. Otherwise, you could. You could lose something very valuable.
In trouble.
Indeed.
And I guess it's school holidays now, isn't it, Chris? So if you're looking for something to inspire your children, take a couple of hours up. I mean, obviously there's cress to grow.
Oh, yes.
And am I too late to be sowing sunflowers with my children now?
I think if we go for a variety which keeps very compact, so a short growing variety, I think there's some which you can even grow as hedging, which only gets to like a metre tall. Then they'd be worth growing. Yes. Yeah. So don't think about the big sunhead flowers. Just go for the compactness. You should be fine. Yeah. Okay, they should be in flower for sort of September, late September onwards as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And just finally, Peter, there's we're talking about children. I'm certain maybe some of our listeners of a certain age, shall we say, might remember The Herbs, which was a very popular children's programme back in the 1970s. Well, the Lindley Library, the RHS Lindley Library, have created a wonderful exhibit at Wisley right through to the 13th of September, which is highlighting children's gardening in Britain and how it's changed and evolved. So if you want something educational to take your children to see how gardening has changed over the years, it might be something to enjoy.
A nice day trip out to Wisley then.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It'll be a good one.
Good stuff. Well, a few jobs for us to get on with then, Chris, and
it's a
some
busy
nice
month,
flower
isn't it?
shows to go and have a look at, and time for a holiday, I think.
It sounds good to me.
Brilliant. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Peter. Today's show was brought to you by Buckingham Garden Centre and Nurseries. The show was hosted by Chris Day and Peter Brown. The show was produced by Peter Brown. And our thanks to Chiltern Music Therapy for providing the music. Thanks for listening.
At Chiltern Music Therapy, we want everyone to know the difference that music can make in their lives. From parents and their premature babies in hospital to grandparents with dementia. We provide music therapy and community music services to people of all ages and needs across England. We work both digitally and in person in people's homes, care homes, schools, hospitals and hospices. Find out more at childrenmusictherapy.co.uk.